All right, YouTube, how are you doing? Welcome back to another review here with me, Thomas, and my boy.
My name is Matt.
Your name's still Matt. With one T or two T's?
With one T, like the thing you wipe your feet on. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like people still fuck that up, don't they?
Floor mat. Yeah. Well, no, I mean, it's not common. It's it's like
I get that. Though.
It's like I don't know, Brian with a Y. I don't know.
There you go. But we're gonna do a beer together. We're gonna do this little review together, and
this
lovely little macro brewery.
There you go.
There you go. But we're doing something fun here. It's the can you show it properly? I can't. Yeah, there you go. It's a 2018 version of Bourbon County Brand Stout.
BCBS.
BCBS, yeah. Is yours? What's the bottling date for yours?
Okay, let's play this game. I have July. What do you have? Let's go month first.
I have July as well.
Okay, and my date is the 11th.
Mine's 10th.
Okay, what's your ABV?
My ABV is 15.2.
Mine's 14.7.
Ah, shit. There you go. That's the, you got the low ABV one. Well, 14.7 ain't low ABV, though.
Yeah, no. It's all relative. Lower than yours, but not low.
No, they're lower than mine. But here's the fun question. I've heard some BCBS purists say that the lower ABV versions, they don't count them as the real BCBS. I think that's bullshit, but
yeah, they're dumb. Basically, what Bourbon County does, and smartly so, is good breweries that do large batch barreling. They don't make a beer, put it in a barrel, and then take that barrel and put that barrel and dump it into bottles. They blend a bunch of barrels together until they get an optimal flavor profile. And they're not going to take, at the same token, you're not going to take the barrel and dump it into a bottle. You're not going to take all the barrels you have and dump them together. You know what I mean? So what they're doing is they're trying to get something that tastes as close as possible to each other, and also represents the product, which is probably one of the better barrel-aged stouts available. But you're also going to have an ABV variance. Now, if you get this bottle, if you get these kind of beers from, let's say, somebody else, Dark Lord, like a Top and Goliath, something like that, they're doing the same thing, but they're just putting a blanket ABV on it because they don't give a F. They're just saying, okay, it's 15% across the board, whereas AB InBev adheres to like laws and regulations and all the shit all the breweries don't give a fuck about. They're never gonna get in trouble for it because it's like jaywalking. So what they do is they're testing those blends and ABVs and putting exactly what's in that blend on the bottle because they go by the rules.
There you go. So here in the Netherlands, we've heard this rumor that it has to do with some states and lower ABVs because of tax laws?
Yes and no. Not really. There are some states where the alcohol percentage is at a certain cap. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's well below that cap is like 12 or something. It's not even close to what these are. You know what I mean? Like those states it's not like the state's like, oh, it can be 14.9, not 15. It's usually something like nothing can be over 4 or nothing can be over 8. And I think our highest one is 12. I think is Maryland or something like that. So that has nothing to do with it. I mean, they might have more reasoning behind those blendings than what I'm doing because everything I'm saying is more assumption than anything else, but knowledgeable assumption. You know what I mean? I don't think they're doing it to skirt laws in specific states.
It always sounded like a little bit of like an urban myth, but it's
put it this way. Put it this way. There is no such law for that in Pennsylvania. I bought this in Pennsylvania. Then why is the low ABV one in Pennsylvania?
There you go. I think the 2017,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, the 2017 that I had was the lower ABV one, and it was still a delicious beer. I think that's it doesn't really matter as long as it's tasty, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing.
Well, no. I mean, ABV matters, not in this beer.
No, I mean,
you know what I mean?
Matters, but 0.4% ABV isn't gonna. That's what I mean.
If they said it was 3% and it was 14, I'd be bothered by it. But
there you go.
If it's 15 and it's 14.5 or 15.5, I don't give a shit. We're already in trouble. We're already gonna be in trouble. This is trouble in the glass. Yeah.
And there you go. And the thing is, this is my nightcap. Your evening's still starting because
Yeah. I'll probably I'll probably put a cork in this and then finish it later on tonight.
you
And,
might want.
yeah. Any other show the back years? I want to see if there's any kind of variance or difference between what I have and what you have.
Yeah, my cameras.
Yeah, they're all the same because it's exactly the same back that you have.
Yeah,
so as far as wording and all that stuff. So anyway.
I'm secretly hoping that we're going to get the variants this year because 2018 was the first year. Fun fact for people from the Netherlands and maybe for your American viewers. 2018 was the first year where BCBS was distroed in the Netherlands. Check out my awesome little opener.
For those playing along at home, if you notice, Thomas is all decked out in Bourbon County gear.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a Bourbon County shirt or whatever you call it, a bowling shirt or a button shirt over a t-shirt, and he's got a glass and I think the butt plug you can't see is actually a Goose Island butt plug. So
the butt plug is actually goose shaped. There you go. Yeah. Mm. Now that actually has the look of a proper little.
Now, I don't have as much of a head as yours, but I'm using this really big, wide, fat glass, so that kind of makes sense. But if you look at mine, I don't know if it's basically, I think I have a little bit better color depth on my camera, but mine looks like the head's a little bit darker than yours, just a skosh.
I think it's the coloring here. You got some good lighting set up there. Mine has that sort of like mocha colored thing.
Mm-hmm.
What do you always say? Malt ball?
Yeah, malt ball. Like you ever eat a candy called Whopper? Whopper, it's a chocolate covered malt ball. It's very popular over here in the States. It's what the inside of that looks like. I'm trying to think of it.
Maltesers?
I don't know what the hell that is. It might be the same thing. Who knows? Anyway, a tan.
But a khaki,
darker than a khaki tan. So like a dark khaki tan.
Basically that's exactly what it is. But what it is, and that's something that happens with every BCBS I've ever had, the head is basically gone within seconds.
See, now you're wrong, and this is a teachable moment, and I'll let you learn. The head isn't gone. Well, there's still a carbonation and head to this. It just it is shrunken to the edges. You can see there's still a head.
Exactly. There's
and the reason why I bring that up is because there's a difference between the head disappearing. Like some barrel aged beers are undercarbed or something went sideways. So where the head goes down, there's nothing. It's just a flat black with no bubbles, nothing whatsoever. This actually still has a carbonation thing going on in it. So I just wanted to make that distinction.
No, that's a very good point. You're right. It has that little ring, and if you shake it around a little bit, if you swirl it, then you get that little, agitation going on. You get a little bit of head floating on top of that. Awesome. So I'm guessing you have a little buddy over there, don't you?
No, I got some weird pop on my iPad. I just want to close it because it's distracting me.
I thought I heard Taco popping up.
No, he's somewhere asleep or something.
Okay, there you go. So let's see what this has in terms of a nose, shall we?
Mine's quite boozy.
That's the first thing that I wanted to say. Yeah.
Especially when you think about it being, going on, at this point, what is it? 2.5 years old? 3 years? 3.5 years old.
No, 3 years, and the bottling date is July, so we're talking July.
Yeah. So we're spot on 3 years. I always think about it's released in the United States. It's always released on the Friday Friday after Thanksgiving. So this beer actually, while it is bottled, you know what I mean, in July, we don't see it on shelves here until late November. Yeah. So I mean, it smells really good, but it does have a heat to it.
Exactly. I was expecting this to have, compared to when I had it fresh, that this would have mellowed down a lot, but it's still quite. I mean, that was a little fruit fly. Sorry, it's still quite boozy, a bit of a sharp nose, and then you get that coconut and chocolate, the cacao thing going on.
It's definitely more spirit and barrel than beer for me.
Absolutely,
at least my version. I think it's going to round out in the taste, but it's probably spirit first, so the bourbon comes through. It's hot. it's aggressive. It's not overly done. It's not like I'm smelling going, oh my God, this is rocket fuel, but I know I'm drinking something that's 15% barrel aged. And then follows behind it. It's got this kind of, it's not super smoky, like super bittering kind of barrel char with a big bittering component to it. It's a little bit more sweeter. It's not sweet, but it's a little bit more sweeter than that. But like you said, the vanilla, the kind of coconut thing coming along with it, with this nice kind of, I think it's a chocolate characteristic from the barrel itself. I confuse vanilla and chocolate a lot. So when I get the barrel chart and mix it with the vanilla, I get this chocolate vibe thing that kind of bridges the gap between the barrel and the beer itself. But if I'm going to talk about it right now in the nose, for me, it's kind of like 3/4 barrel or maybe 66% barrel. And then 2/3 barrel and 1/3 beer, at least in the nose. But it smells awesome.
It smells awesome. What I still remember from the first time that I had this fresh, about 3 years ago, just under 3 years ago, it's got the stupid echo thing going on. I remember it having a lot more of that tobacco char, leathery thing going on. And right now, I'm not getting any of that. Maybe in a little bit when it opens up a little bit, but I remember that being one of the first impressions I had was that char, that leather and tobacco. And
I get the char part. It's just not the predominant portion of the show here for me. You know what I mean? The barrel is present. Like when I say it's spirit, barrel, and beer, that's the way it goes for me. And the char is definitely involved, but it's not super hyper aggressive for me. Char has always come off to me like you took like a nice chocolate and rubbed it up against some charcoals. I've personally never got a tobacco note out of beer at all. And I've smoked, I've chewed, I've eaten tobacco. I know what it's like. I just don't get it. It's not a flavor profile that I would ever associate with beer. That's a me flaw, not everybody else flaw. But for me, it does have this kind of richness that I associate more with like a burnt barrel, burnt woody kind of characteristic. That's where I would lean more than.
It's got that burnt barrel thing, but I remember I once went to this coopery in Cooperage in Scotland, where they fix the barrels. They came from like America and whatever. And I remember when maybe that's because I remember that it's like, it was 15 years ago. And I remember it like the day today, that distinct smell of a freshly burned barrel.
Yeah.
The freshly burned, it was an ex-bourbon barrel, but it only had bourbon in it once and it was never used for anything else. And that char note is so distinct for me. I know it is there. You say you get it, but I have this distinct memory of it. And I remember when it was fresh, it was a lot more intense than it is right now. But that could be that barrel character mellowing out after a couple of years.
Yeah.
And now you get that, you get that boozy character a little bit more.
Yeah.
So maybe that's it.
Yeah, I mean, a barrel char is usually around for the long haul. So I would imagine it was like this from the get. I mean, I reviewed this beer, I believe, when it was fresh. So I could always go back and kind of reference my 2018 review of this to see how different it is. Brass tacks is, again, as simple as I could say, is bourbon first, barrel second, and beer third. They're close. They're not like miles and miles apart, but there's a distinct barrier between the two. And the barrel portion of the show is a little less aggressive on the char end of things. Like you said, it's still there, but it's not nearly as aggressive as what I remember.
Exactly that. It does smell kind of pretty though. Yeah. I do like it. It just,
it smells like I kind of want to drink it.
Yeah, I kind of do. So let's go for that, shall we?
Yeah.
Cheers.
Okay.
That's nice. It's a bit sweeter than I expected, actually. Not aggressively sweet, but
I would say that.
Yeah.
I don't remember it being like this. I remember, again, I thought it was going to come off a bit different. It actually follows the nose quite similarly because it comes off very sweet, because I think booze is the number one portion of the show here. The sweetness reminds me, it doesn't get this sweet, but the sweetness reminds me of like cough syrup sweetness. Like the way like cough syrup sweetness kind of comes up, not that chemical medicinal kind of portion of it, but the sweetness of it. That's kind of how that comes off. I'm used to Bourbon County being a little bit more lush, a little bit more confectionery, like it being a little bit softer, not as aggressively sweet. Like that sweetness being not as refined sugary, but more confectionery kind of sugar. Think like milk stout, kind of
Yeah,
imperial
but
milk
not the
stout.
but the proper imperial milk stout, like not
Yeah.
the overdone pastry, like where
Hmm.
lactose is the main ingredient, but like the proper old school milk stout thing where you get like, oh, there's a nice little sugary sweetness to it, but nothing
Yeah.
too aggressively there. I get quite a sort of like a jammy, not like a specific, like overtly. Often when I get like red fruit in stouts, it leans towards sort of like a sweet cherry thing.
Hmm.
This goes towards like that sort of forest fruit blend of like a jam, like a
Yeah. Yeah. If
that
you
sort of
Yeah, if you made a raspberry jam, but took a little bit of the raspberry out of it, like it's not as raspberry, it's more jammy,
mm,
but it's got that raspberry kind of jamminess to it. The thing that actually surprises me the most, and because I think the barrel charriness and there's a bitterness in my bottle that is more than I thought it was going to be based off of the nose, and I think that's probably the best saving grace of the beer itself.
yeah,
Is that since it is that sweet, and it's not overly sweet. Listen, we're talking about a 15% bourbon barrel aged imperial stout. If it's not sweet, you're on the wrong fucking ride.
of
You
course,
know
but
what you're doing, but they're also, you don't want it to be sweet on sweet on sweet. And there is a nice bittering component. Is it hops? Is it malt, roasted malt bittering? Is it barrel? I think it's a combination of all three, but it works pretty well. My biggest disappointment in this beer is mouthfeel. Let's put it that way from the get.
I expected it compared to what I remember from the first time. Now, Bourbon County has never been the thickest of imperial stouts. Like it's never been like this insanely huge, like syrupy beer. But the mouthfeel usually is a bit more dominant, a bit more there. It's still nice. It's a nice mouthfeel. It's a bit less thick than what you just said. It has this sort of just getting back to that bittering thing that you're talking about. What I'm getting here is like um, if you get like toast, you get like toast, but it's slightly burned, not
Mhm.
burned, but it's like slightly burned, and then you get like a good quality chocolate spread to get over it, but not like the sweet, but like more like dark chocolate spread for over toast. That's kind of like the bittering that I'm getting, sort of like a slightly darker chocolate, but with a sweet note to it, and then that burned note of the bread.
Mhm.
That's the kind of bittering
Yeah.
that I'm getting here, like that sort of sweet bitterness.
Yeah, no, I mean, like it's honestly like the bitterness level in this is quite surprising. I actually quite enjoy it, but like
Mm.
it's been probably at least a minute since I've taken a sip, and it's still I can still taste the bittering on my tongue. The bittering is lingering. It's meaningful. It's big. It's just that the sweetness part is bigger. That's the only thing. And I think that's a cool, very cool balance, a very cool interplay. Is probably a better way to put it between the bittering and the sweetness, because if
Mm.
this isn't as sweet as it is, I think it's probably too bitter. But if this is less bittering than it is, I think it's way too sweet. So while it's not a perfect balance between the two, and I think the beer lacks something as far as mouthfeel and maybe a little bit of depth and complexity, but
Mm.
not that much because it's still a really tasty beer. I think if you take away some of that bittering or raise that bittering or take away some of the sweetness, raise the sweetness, it's a much poopier beer.
It's at that point where I would say I'm kind of interesting. I'm kind of interested at what it would do a year from now. But I think it kind of hit its sweet spot. As in, don't if you still have 2018 bottles laying around, I wouldn't wait too much longer with drinking it because
Mm.
part of me wants to wait because it still has that alcohol heat, that sort of sharp edge, and
Yeah.
that bourbon note, especially in the nose, is quite dominant. But I'm afraid if you're going to age it longer and give it another year, that sweet spot between sweetness and bitterness is going to go completely out of whack. It's going to lose that cohesive. I don't know. I'm kind of
Well,
thinking.
and this is the only reason why I'm interjecting on this
Go
is
for it.
you have to remember this is a pasteurized beer, so it's
It
not
is.
going to
That's true.
change. It's not going to change nearly as much in the bottle over time as you think it's going to.
That's true.
Now, that doesn't mean it won't change. It just means it won't turn sour. You know what I mean? So it's going to change. It's going to develop over time. But the growth, the ceiling and the floor of this beer are tighter than if previous iterations that were non-pasteurized. I think honestly, my assessment on this, and from somebody who's drank one or two aged beers in his life, is that this beer has gotten the most drastic movement of this beer is mouthfeel. I think it
Yeah.
probably had a really good mouthfeel, and it's gotten thinner and thinner over time. And with that lack of mouthfeel, that sweetness and bittering portion of the show start to get more and more pronounced, because I think that's the glue that holds the ship together. Because if it's super sultry and lush mouthfeel, I don't think the bittering comes off as aggressive. I don't think the sweetness comes off as aggressive. And I think it's a more cohesive beer, where here it's a little bit more disconnected, and while still tasty AF, it's just not what I remember this version being.
My memory is exactly like you say. It from my memory, it had everything sort of interplaying together. There you go. Right now, I'm getting like, oh, now I'm getting this, and now I'm getting that, and now there's this part of the show. And I remember it all sort of interplaying better when it was fresher. It's a good point which you just, by the way, raised, because this is a thing that people keep talking about here in some Dutch Facebook groups, is that people talk about aging beers that are pasteurized. The only three things that are going to happen here is like that alcohol heat can lessen after several years. You can get a little bit of oxidation depending on how well it's capped and how well the seal is on the bottle cap, and that barrel presence can lessen over years. Now, I wouldn't expect to add for something like this at this ABV that after 3 years the barrel presence would be that low. But I do feel that, from my point of view, what I remember from the first time I had this, the bourbon character is still there, but it seems I don't know.
See, and this is the thing when it comes, and I always like to mention this when we get into the conversation of aging beer, is that, a bourbon barrel aged stout is, well, it's the misnomer is that's like something that is meant to be aged. To a certain extent, yes, a couple of years, but it's not a long haul ager. Like, you shouldn't be aging. Actually, let me rephrase that. You should age whatever the fuck you want to age. You want to age Miller Lite, I don't give a fuck. But in the grand scheme of things, should you age bourbon barrel aged beers? Sure, have at it, but don't expect to age a bourbon barrel aged beer for 15, and I'm talking, when I think aging beer, I think 15, 20, 30 years. That's what I think. I don't think 2-3 years. Don't expect it to be amazing. Will it be amazing? Maybe. You just don't know. That's the beautiful part of aging beer. Now, here's the thing. When you're talking about a pasteurized beer, you're limiting, like I said, you're limiting the floor, you're limiting the ceiling of what could happen. It might age into something quite nicely over time, but it's probably never going to morph into something ridiculously amazing, because you don't have that kind of magic, that fermentation, that old kind of growth and that you get from a bottle condition unpasteurized kind of beer, which was the beauty of the old bourbon counties, is that I've had bourbon counties, old ones, like I've had ones from 08, 09, 10 over the past couple of years, and some are really, really good and some are really, really trash. But that's part of aging beer. But I don't think you should ever go into aging beer going like, hey, let me start aging beer, so let's go out and find all the bourbon barrel aged beers. It literally starts at the beer you should always age is a core 4 bottle conditioned beer. That's the beer you should age. Yeah. You want it to be core 4 ingredients, and you want it to be, almost need it to be bottle conditioned. If it's force carbonated and if it's force carbonated and there's more than 4 ingredients, you're probably not looking at something that's aged all that well. And the general rule of thumb is, the more each additional thing you add to the beer, the more that can go fucking wrong with it. You add a bourbon barrel, you add adjuncts, you add coffee, you add this, you add that. The more moving parts. It's like a car. It's like a car from the 50s. If a car breaks in the 50s, what? You got to replace a belt. You got to replace some fluids. And then maybe a spark plug. That's it. Those are the 4 things you got to fix.
It'll go. It'll move.
Yeah,
it'll fucking move.
You could fix it with just pantyhose if your belt goes. Now, a car,
literally.
Yeah, I'm not joking.
That's
Like,
no, exactly.
but
That's
now
not a joke.
a
But
car
literally
breaks.
put the
Yeah, but car breaks today, you can't even diagnose what's wrong with it until you hook it up to some mainframe. You don't know. So
First
it's like,
response is, have you tried turning it off and on again?
yeah. So it's like one of those things where it's like, if a car breaks nowadays, it's not like, oh,
Yeah.
what broke. It's not like, oh, let's find out what's broken, fix it. It's like, I don't even know where to fucking start. Like, yeah, sure, there's car people that go, oh, I think it's that, but you really have to dig and find out what the issue is, unless it's something blatant like a blown tire or fucking bullshit like that. And the same thing goes with beer. So you're talking about a pasteurized barrel aged beer. It'll age well. It'll probably won't ever go like south to the point where it's undrinkable, but I doubt it'll ever get to the point where it's like, holy shit, you know?
Where you get your socks knocked off. By the way, quick question, because I've had this question as you just mentioned 4-core. Do you consider all grains part of 4-core, like rye, wheat?
Yeah.
I do, but somebody somebody had that question to me, and they mentioned I don't consider things like oats or rye as a 4-core.
No, it's grains,
I
grain.
figured,
It's
right.
grain,
There you
water,
go.
hops, yeast. That is the 4. It's not malted barley. That's not the the core 4. Now, and I'll even go as far as say this: I wouldn't call this beer a core 4 beer, but I would put a little asterisk next to it.
Mm-hmm.
As I'll include it in core 4 is Belgian beers, because I take Belgian candied sugar as, I don't view that as an adjunct. You know what I mean? Like, even though it is, but it's part of the process. It's not. It's fermentable sugar. You know what I mean?
I'm not even saying process. It's part of the Belgian tradition. It's
well,
not
just that.
Go
like,
that far, but
you take grain and you mash grain to get sugar water. Okay. If you skip that step and you add dextrose, which is what all hazy IPAs have in them, they barely have a ton of grain, because that's makes what you're making is sugar water. Your goal is to make sugar water. That's the goal when you make beer. Now, there's a difference between extract and blah, 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 whatever. But your goal is to make sugar water. And Belgian candy sugar is just beet sugar. That's all it is sugar from beets. That's all it fucking is. It's a fermentable sugar. And basically what they're doing is they're making a full-bodied, rich, darker beer, and they want to get the ABV where they want it to be and have a certain Belgian feel to it, hence Belgian candy sugar. So while it's not a core 4 thing, I would include it in the list. Like, if someone said, what are the best beers to age? I say core 4, force carbonated, and I would continue that conversation and include Belgian beers. I would not say, okay, next one is Belgian beers. No, Belgian beers are some of the best ageable beers of all time. So,
and I do agree with that. The only caveat I would add to that is when it comes to some, again, this is a caveat, like some barrel aged beers, it's always fun to get to, because I've had plenty of them where I had to. And I know a lot of brewers will say, when we release the beer, that's the beer that we want to release. And you should always drink fresh, and you should always drink it the way, because that's the beer that we meant. I kind of think that's a bit of a marketing thing, because if you put out a beer as a brewery, if you're a brewer and you put out a beer and you say, yeah, this is the beer, but don't drink it right now. Just wait a little bit, because this is not the product that we kind of want to put out. You should wait a little bit and drink it. Then that's when we think it's good. Then that's kind of weird. So drink fresh is sort of like but a lot of these barrel aged beers, you'll drink them the day they were released. And they can be a bit hot, a bit sharp, a bit,
that's a weird
in the barrel, but that's how and then give it a few months, give it like 6 months or a year. And then I often find some of these barrel aged beers to hit that sweet spot where the beer shines a little bit more. The base beer shines a little bit more in comparison to the barrel. But that's because I feel that a lot of barrel aged beers, a lot of brewers think that when people buy barrel aged beers, they really want to taste the barrel. They go like, if I buy a bourbon aged beer, I want to drink the bourbon. I want to taste a lot of bourbon. So that's why I sometimes feel give it a little bit of time, and then, you get a little bit more of but that's personal preference. I'm saying that's personal preference.
Well, that's a loaded kind of conversation, because well, you also have to remember too, we're talking about beer on a static format. Like, there's some people that make good beer and shit beer, so it's not like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like, okay, yeah, you should cellar the four bottle conditioned beer from that horrible brewery who doesn't know how to make beer. No, you shouldn't do that either. You should do it from a good brewery. So it's not like all core four bottle conditioned beers of a certain ABV and ageability should be aged, but it's also like you're talking about barrel, like they put it in a bottle and that's when they deem it to be drank. That's it's a bunch of bullshit to a certain extent. So that's true for certain beers. But not true for others. You tell me you barrel age a beer. Listen, you come out of the chute with a bourbon barrel aged beer that was in a barrel for 3 to 6 months. You're a fucking asshole for only putting it in a barrel for 3 to 6 months. So I don't even want to talk to you. And it's not going to get better with time. 12 months to me is the absolute bare minimum for a bourbon barrel aged stout, I should say, because there's a lot of like farmhouse stuff that doesn't need to sit in that long. But then you talk about, like, for example, there's a brewery in Pennsylvania called Trogs. And they make a bunch of really great beers. I don't know if you guys see them overseas. They're probably one of the, they're like the best, one of the old school originators. Like there was the first, like there was like Sierra Nevada and like those breweries, like Sierra Nevada, like that original OG crap. And then there was the class, they call it the class of 90, which is like a class of 89, I think is what they call it, where it was like North Coast and it was like Trogs and all these like second wave just after Sierra Nevada. And Trogs is one of them. Make amazing, great beers.
I've heard of them, and I've never seen them here.
And they came out with a beer. I remember it distinctly. They make an American barley wine called Flying Mouflon. And I love that beer so much. I probably have a bottle of it kind of floating around somewhere. At least I should, because it's like one of my favorite ones. Regardless, here you go. This is the non-barrel aged one of it. It's old; they don't make it anymore. It's just it's a great American barley wine, aged fantastic. Well, it is what it is. I love Flying Mouflon. And then I just so randomly had a Monday off, and then on a Monday at like 11 in the afternoon morning, they're like, "Hey, we're releasing barrel aged Flying Mouflon at the brewery." And at the time, I lived like an hour and a half away from the brewery. I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to get it. I get down there and it's like it's like, not even like a 500 mil, it's like whatever, 375 milliliter or something like that, like just a smaller bottle, cork and cage. 3 motherfucking years they aged that shit in the fucking barrels, like 3 years in the barrel. Okay. And I was like, I didn't know that until I got there. I was like, holy shit. It's to this day one of the best barrel aged beers I've ever had in my life. But here's the thing. Yeah. They released it every year now, and it's aged in a barrel for 1 year, and it's not nearly the same fucking beer. So do they want you to drink? And this is where the conversation gets mucky. Yes, if a brewery releases a bourbon barrel aged beer, I'm probably guessing that they want you to drink it sooner rather than later because they think it's probably the best version of that beer that it will be. It might get a little bitter over time. Even this actually has on it, says it will develop in the bottle for up to 5 years on the tag. And it's on the back of the tag. And but is it the best barrel aged beer they can make? No, because obviously the first one they aged for 3 years, but logistically they couldn't do it. They did it once. They waited 3 years. They knew how people loved it. They couldn't wait 3 more years to do it, because what they'd have to do is make that beer every year and then wait 3 more years to release it again. But they're like, well, we got to catch lightning in a bottle, and then we need to release it again. So let's do it only 1 year. Is it as good as the original? No. You know what I mean?
But at the end of the day, though, you got to realize these people do have to make money.
Yeah.
They have to make money, and that's one of the reasons why I often feel like when they say we just released the beer, and you got to drink it straight away, so buy it straight away and drink it straight away, because we want to make money. And that's a bit of a cynical. I know I'm being cynical right now, by the way.
No,
I'm being.
No, I don't want to. I feel bad because I feel like I'm bogarting the whole conversation, but.
You're not.
But,
please keep going. I love
but
this. This is awesome.
I think this is really good to circle back, and this kind of ties us back into Bourbon County, because I feel like we're kind of getting off the rails here a little bit.
Good point. Yeah.
Is that you said those companies have to make money. These guys don't.
No.
You know what I mean? Like the profits they make from Bourbon County is pennies in the coffer of what AB InBev has. So I actually think, and this is, hot take, it might not be the most popular take. I think Bourbon County's been good and is staying good because they're owned by AB InBev, because they don't have to, period. They don't have to. Oh, this barrel's fucked. Let's blend that out. Or this is this. No, their goal is to make the best Bourbon County beer they can make, regardless of money. I mean, they can't be losing money hand over fist. They're not. But I'm saying their brewery, their company does not, their market share, their profit margin does not fluctuate if this beer sucks or if it's great. It doesn't move. It doesn't. It's literally the smallest fish it's the biggest fish in the smallest pond of ponds in the history of ponds. Like, sure, Bourbon County, everybody knows what Bourbon County is, but like, it's like, I don't know the numbers. I would imagine Bourbon County counts probably for 0.01% of AB InBev's profits. You know what I mean? Like, they don't give a shit about it.
No, I know exactly what you mean, because this is the thing. I know I often bring this up in some of my reviews or live streams or whatever, but I used to be completely into single malts, like in single malt whiskey. Here's the thing. When you're into a certain type of beverage, a certain type of product or whatever, you think that is the most predominant part of that company's revenue. People love Bourbon County, but they hate AB InBev, but they think that Bourbon County is like the shit show and the most important thing for AB InBev. It really fucking isn't. So when you talk about that single malt thing, let's talk about Diageo. Diageo also does something with beer, like with Guinness, right? They own Guinness. Some other breweries, I believe, they call Diageo.
Oh, Diageo.
Those guys. Okay. So people know Guinness, but Diageo owns a lot of whiskey distilleries.
They're liquor.
As well.
Yeah, they're liquor. They're more liquor than
exactly. They're huge when it comes to that. So when it comes to their single malt production of all the distilleries that they own, that's like 2 or 3% of what they produce. 97 to 98% of what they make. Maybe it's 96 to 95 right now because of the higher ask for single malt whiskeys because of the Asian market and everything, where people really are into new money and they want to have, luxury products. 95% of what they do is for blends, the cheap blends, the $10 to $15 to $20 euro bottles that you find in any kind of store.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing goes for AB InBev. People, when they think about AB InBev, one of the first beers that they think of is Goose Island Bourbon County brand stout, because that's their sort of, what you call it, tunnel vision, because that's what they think about, but it's not their main product. Mm-hmm. So when people say the myth that AB InBev sort of lets Goose Island do what they want with Bourbon County, and the people say that's not true, they're probably meddling. They're not. They're just letting Goose Island do whatever they want to do, because you guys just mess around with that beer and we'll sell it.
Well, to a certain extent, no. They definitely push and market their core line, like the 312 and their IPA and stuff like that.
Yeah,
they want that.
I mean, just Bourbon County for Goose Island.
Yeah, and even if you talk to Chicagoites, you know what I mean, people that actually live in the place where Goose Island was born, they actually still be like, no, like Goose Island still, like the core of Goose Island still exists there. But it's like, and that's the thing, like this beer, while it is obviously, you would never have seen this beer ever if AB InBev didn't buy it. You know what I mean? Like, I would barely be seeing BCBS by me, but now that AB InBev bought Goose Island, that's why you're able to get Bourbon County Stout in the Netherlands, but it's one of those things where it's like, is it good or bad? I think AB InBev has been very, very bad for Goose Island outside of a couple things. I mean, they've let this alone. They've left the sour series alone, like the sister series, the Sophie and Gillian and Jillian and all that stuff. And those are still quite nice, but a lot of their other stuff, and it goes as far as, if you've never read it, I mean, I should say it, but if you've never read it, and I'm speaking to people out there, not you, Thomas, but you, if you haven't read Josh Noel's book about AB InBev and Goose Island and the downfall of or not downfall, but the takeover and what happened and how that transition went. It's like one of
Yeah.
the best books you could actually read. It's absolutely fantastic.
What was it
But
called again? But because I heard about it. It's a pretty good book. I heard. I think I saw. I think I actually have it on my wish list for the Dutch version of Amazon, basically. And in the meantime,
what's it called
while you're
again?
looking that up, you have to realize, by the way,
Barrel aged stout and selling out. Goose Island,
yeah,
Anheuser-Busch,
that
and
one,
how
that
craft
one.
beer became a big business. Yeah, and so read that book, and you'll understand the separation and what happened. They basically took the biggest beer that AB InBev had at the time, or I should say Goose Island at the time, was their 312. It was like their wheat ale, and it was like their biggest seller. And they basically made it a specific way. And when AB InBev took over, they basically said, okay, how do we make 312 at Budweiser facilities? Well, all Budweiser tanks are horizontal tanks, and they're for Beechwood lagering. So they started making 312, and it went to shit because it wasn't. You could change a recipe, but when you're switching the complete setup of a brewery, it's hard to make it that way. So it did suffer in some aspects. But here's the thing about it too, and we talked about this pre video of you wearing the stuff you're wearing just to kind of poke at people and get people kind of riled up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, at what extent do people? How do I put it? So people kind of will sit there and be like, F AB InBev, F Goose Island, because they're not doing it right. How many people still drink, Boston Lager, Sam Adams? I love Sam Adams. I still drink AB InBev. I'll drink a Hogarth. I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? I'll drink Wicked Weed. I'll drink Birmingham. I don't care. You know what I mean? I do care to a certain extent. I buy local as much as I can. You know what I mean? I support local breweries, but I'm up by this too because I kind of find it quite tasty. And it's honestly, at least here in the United States, probably the most available and consistent bourbon barrel aged stout you could purchase outside of maybe New Holland's Dragon's Milk. But when you talk about Sam Adams and like what they're doing, like a lot of people, like they kind of poke fun at Sam Adams, like, oh, they're craft, but they're not real craft, but they're those guys. You know how much, what percentage of liquid beer, of all the alcoholic beverages that Sam Adams sold last year? Do you know what that percentage, or no, not last quarter, what that percentage was beer, like of their total, like of their total thing, whether it be like 8%, 8% of their total sales was Boston beer.
Yeah, you mentioned this
everything else. I forgot you saw in the chat. Yeah, it was true seltzer, cider, and what was the other one? Hard seltzer, cider, and something else. I forget. Oh, Twisted Tea, which is their like alcohol pop tea. So it's like okay, well then is it really at least AB InBev's like probably I would say 50% beer. You know what I mean? Like you might not call Budweiser beer, but at least it's kind of beer.
It's kind of beer. That was basically that's the point. It's funny because every time you say these, you've brought up things that I wanted to bring up, and you bring them up by yourself. I'm like, okay, I wanted to lead a conversation into something, and you already bring it up because that's again that thing that I mentioned earlier. People focus on the product that they love, and they kind of tend to think that the manufacturer of this product only focuses on, like, for example, I used to own a Philips TV, right? It kind of makes you think that Philips makes TVs. That's what they do. That's what they're big for here. They used to be big for them. Philips is basically into medical equipment. That's what they make. Mm-hmm. They mostly make, but because they also have this small part of the company that makes TVs, used to make TVs. People that buy their TVs, people that love their TVs, and then people that don't like their TVs anymore because they have complaints, just go like, Philips is the worst manufacturer of TVs out there, and I'm not going to buy their products anymore because they fucking suck. And Philips is going to go, that's fine. 2% of our entire company is focused on TV.
Yeah, that's
going to the haters.
I think it's a bad way to analogize it because I don't think there was ever a groundswell of love and affection for Philips. Like I don't think the whole of a community viewed Philips TVs as a tent pole in the history of bourbon barrel aged beer. Like Bourbon County Stout.
I just realized I forgot. I'm talking to a audio visual.
Well, no. But no, it doesn't even have to be like an audio visual nerd thing. Like you have to understand, like Bourbon County Stout. Like before BCBS, there was no bourbon barrel aged beer. Bourbon barrel aged beer existed. You know what I mean? Like Thomas Hardy in 1964 did their first beer was in sherry cask. Barrel aged beers exist before, but as far as a large, big like production, like regionally, not even like nationally, regionally, not a lot of people were bourbon barrel aging beer. So they were both a pioneer of not just a process, but of also a high end production process. Like it was like not only was it innovative, but also delicious on a larger scale. Philips TVs were just, you know, they made an awesome TV, maybe, but they weren't as loved and as propped up as BCBS was.
It was kind of a bad analogy. The point was that
no, that's what I'm trying to say.
I know it was kind of the point was that people tend to focus on one side of the story, and they kind of realize that they kind of forget that the company behind the product does a lot of other things.
And in my point, pretty much at the beginning of like this particular portion of the conversation was like, you know, if Philips, you know, I doubt, and again, I'm not a Philips aficionado either on the medical or TV side of things, but I doubt there was ever anybody at Philips said, you know what, you guys in a TV department, we don't care what you do, just bang out that good stuff because we want people to think of our TVs as the best. Like that's what AB InBev has done with BCBS. They've been like, because they like that, like they covet that, they covet having their toe in the waters of that market as something that people really enjoy and covet. Might not turn the dial financially for them all that much, but they like to be the best, you know, in that portion. And I think letting them and their team and the people that make these beers, and they make them really, really well, I think that them keeping their hands off of that portion of the company is smart. The only part that pisses me off is the pasteurization process, because I feel like there could be something cool and unique from each individual beer, and I feel like it's a little bit more static. I understand why they did it. When you start to take big barrel-aged beers at this production level globally, at this point, you can't have that kind of loss in your hand. Yeah. Like the loss that they had with the sour turned BCBS infected.
Yeah, that was 2015, right?
Yeah, that didn't dent. Yeah. I mean, that wasn't good, but it didn't hurt them. But think about where they are now. Imagine them trying to recall globally. Like they had to recall, in several several states, not the whole nationwide. It was several states.
But considering that there are states out there in the
United States, now they're like, listen, we're
Netherlands.
Exactly. Yeah, so but imagine now they're like, oh, we need to recall all of these across the globe. Like you can't do that. So when they see it being like, okay, we'll let you do that, but you have to let us pasteurize it, otherwise we can't fucking do it. So you understand. You understand what
point of view. Of course, they want to because they want to be consistent. And I will say this, by the way, that's one of the things that I do like about BCBS. It's consistent because no matter what vintage you get, you always know it's BCBS.
Yeah, it's going to be different, but it's going to be BCBS.
Exactly. It's going to be different. It's going to have like fluctuations again, but whenever you smell BCBS or taste, like if you were to get that bottle,
I'll probably put a cork in this and drink it later.
Yeah, I remember how you said that. That's funny because I actually, here you go. Just FYI, before we started this, Matt said, I'm going to cork this because of the time difference and I'm going to drink it later. I would just like to point out,
he has like way more than me left. To be fair, my glass is like 4 times wider.
Maybe, but still, look at that. No, but the point is, though, if you were to get this as a mystery beer, first of all, you would pick it out straight away because of the bottle shape. You would know it's a BCBS. If you were to get this, like somebody poured something out and they were like, what is this? First thing you say after one sniff, one taste, you're like, that's BCBS. You might not know the vintage, but you would know it's BCBS.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm not saying you wouldn't, but I think you're undercutting how hard mystery beers are when you have no idea what's in front of you. I think this is a bourbon barrel aged stout. I think you think it might be Bourbon County Stout, but you're like, it could be somebody else's. Like, I don't think you're like, oh no, this is I could see myself doing that in a review, like betting on my intuition and hoping I'm right. and then being right and being like, look at how fucking good I am.
Of course,
but,
because we both had that.
but,
I know you.
yeah.
I know you've had that. I know I've had that.
Yeah.
That's why I'm having the brass here right now to say that. And I'll probably because
But,
right now there's people out there who are watching both you and me right now and going like, I'm going to send that asshole BCBS, and then he's going to fuck it up, and I'm going to laugh at him. So,
but it's honestly, it's always been a great beer, and I'll tell you this. You know, I've been drinking, so I'm drinking Bourbon County myself. Like I've had vintages back. I think 08 was the last. I think 06 was the first one they ever did. It's very limited. I'll never have it probably. I've had we did a vertical from 08 to 2015 once. So I've had all those. But as far as like me buying them in real time, like actually buying them when they're coming out, I've been buying them since 2012.
There you go. Yeah.
And I've had them every year. And I actually hated them switching to this bottle format. I loved the 12-ounce 4-packs better. I'll tell you right now, this is probably one of my favorite bottles and labels in the history of beer. I think this is one of the coolest and smartest beer bottles and beer labels ever.
I don't have. I can actually tell you, it's so popular. I don't have them right now because I just finished the last one a week or two ago. But I have somebody who sends me mystery beers every now and then.
Yeah,
he actually makes the pool tag in the shape of the.
Oh yeah. Well,
yeah,
here's the thing.
That's how popular and well known it is.
And one, I'm always a sucker for embossed bottles.
Oh yeah.
Like I always love that. A Belgian thing. You know what I mean? That's very much Belgian. And then to do the embossed front with this tag, you walk into a beer shop and you look across the room. You know this from 19 miles away. There's no way you see this bottle and don't go, that's the Bourbon County Stout. Like, how smart is that marketing? Like, think about it. Like, there's no way, there's no other bottle that you could, the only bottle you could ever confuse this with is if someone accidentally put this in like the Scotch or bourbon section or something like that. Like, you'd be like, then you could be like, wait, what is that over there? I'd be like, oh, but if this is in the beer section, you're like, I'm talking from a distance. You know what I mean? It's so smartly done. Yeah. Like I can hold this here and you go, that's Bourbon County. If I hold this back here, you know, it's fucking, you can't read anything. No one can read that, but you know, that's a Bourbon County bottle. I think it's
because it's the simple things. And you have to fucking fruit flies. You have to give credits to their, to the marketing people.
But let me finish my point. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. I'll go for it.
What I was going down because I went in a bottle tangent. I've drank all of them since 2012 in real time. I think last year's version was the best one I've ever had.
2020.
Yep.
I still have another bottle. I was talking about this with Mike from NerdSense. I don't know when yours was bottled, the one you had. Mine was a bit overcarbonated. I really had a bit of a carbonation issue with mine, and I do remember talking with Mike about it. And we were talking about the bottle when it was bottled, the bottling date, and he did have a different batch. He said I had no carbonation issues whatsoever, so it could be one of those
random things here.
Random things, but I felt mine was a little bit overcarbonated. I loved the palate, I loved the nose, I loved everything, but it kind of just sort of went whoosh in my mouth. It was gone.
See, I love that in big stouts sometimes.
Really? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I kind of like.
More times than not, no. But every now and then I like it because it's like I don't know. There's something about. I love. Let's put it this way: if you said right now, you have the option of drinking a bourbon barrel aged stout, and you have two choices. It could be not flat, but it could be undercarbed or overcarbed. Overcarbed every fucking time for me. Like I would choose overcarbed, not fucking like you open it up and it just shoots out and it's evaporating everywhere. But like overcarbed, like I absolutely because I think the flavor profile and one of the reasons why I think this beer is not fantastic is thin. I think it's thin because it's undercarbonated. That's why I think this beer isn't as good as it could be. So I think carbonation delivers flavor in a way that's crucial. And I think
absolutely
if it's undercarbed, you have way less flavorful beer than if it's overcarbed. Again, I'm not talking flat versus super carb. I'm talking overcarb versus undercarb. Not, you know what I mean? I'm not talking extremely overcarbonated.
We're not talking about like one side of the spectrum versus the other side of the spectrum, but I do agree that like I guess I see where you're coming from, because even if it is a bit overcarbed and you don't like overcarbed, you can just pour it out. You can leave it there for a little bit, and you'll be fine. If it's undercarbed, it's going to stay undercarbed.
Yeah.
So that's a good point. That is a good point. But no,
you were going to
I
say
guess,
something. You forgot, didn't you?
yeah. Fuck.
Yeah.
I
Anyway.
had a point, and then something else popped in my head because it just noticed how long we've been going.
Yeah,
and
an hour-long BCBS review. So
we
what
were
we'll
going
have
to do is, holy fucking hell.
Yeah. So what we're gonna have to do is this is just not a BCBS review. This is Thomas and Matt review BCBS and chat about the culture around AB InBev and what makes barrel aged and aging beer good.
And just to quickly point that out, one of the reasons, and you mentioned that, one of the reasons that I did kind of put on the shirt and the fucking glass and the bottle opener was because I know there's a lot of people out there that are not drinking BCBS because they really want to shit in AB InBev, which I kind of agree, because what AB InBev has done to a lot of breweries is kind of really shit.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not drinking BCBS because of not liking AB InBev, you're kind of missing out on a pretty cool imperial stout.
Well, and here's the other thing, and not to make this video 9 hours instead of 1 hour.
Go for it, man.
So a lot of people don't know AB InBev's motivations when it comes to what they're trying to accomplish. I'm trying to look up the article right now.
While you're looking it up, I'm just going to quickly make the one point, because the only reason that I'm not
I
buying
got
more
it.
of this,
I got it.
There you go. I'll make my point later. You go first.
Okay, so I always hate doing this because I don't like mentioning this thing, but there's a podcast and a website called Good Beer Hunting. I'm not a big fan of them. I think they're actually kind of detrimental to the craft beer community, but they actually do have very cool articles from time to time. So back in 2017, there's a guy named Chris Heron. He's actually the owner of Creature Comforts Brewing. And he used to actually be, I'm shooting from the cuff on this, but I actually think he actually worked as upper level management for Diageo before he opened his brewery. And he published an article on Good Beer Hunting called "Watch the Hands, Not the Cards: The Magic of Mega Brew." And he actually explains the motivation, because he's actually sat in a boardroom with upper level management of AB InBev and what their ultimate goal is when it comes to, and this is in the heyday of them buying up breweries. So people are freaking out, like, what are they trying to do? They're trying to buy up breweries so they can get rid of craft brewing. And the ultimate goal of AB InBev, when they bought Goose Island, when they bought Wicked Weed, when they buy 10 Barrel, all those breweries, they're not actually trying to infiltrate craft beer. What they're trying to do is they're trying to elevate Budweiser to a premium product. So what they're doing is they're actually taking, Wicked Weed, they're taking Goose Island, they're taking these staples in the craft beer community, and they're taking, you go into a bar and you ask for a pint of Goose Island IPA. That's $8. You go into a bar, you ask for a pint of Budweiser. That's $3 or $4. Well, let's buy that company. Let's take that Goose Island IPA and make it $6. And let's take a Bud and make it $4.50. So what it is that gap of 3 to 8 is now $4.50 to $6, and it makes Budweiser look like a better beer by closing the gap to craft beer. And that is the ultimate goal of what Budweiser, Miller Coors, and all those companies are doing. They never wanted to be in the craft beer. They don't give a shit about craft beer. Craft beer is 15% of the market. 15% of the market they don't give a fuck about. They wanted to take their beer and elevate it slightly to make more money.
And it fucking works, because last time I was in my local supermarket. So my local supermarket, I have to do the miles kilometer thing here. 2 miles, not even from me. They sell. They got Goose Island Midway. They got Lagunitas, the what's the hazy one called with the dog on the label? I have the T-shirt. I got the
They
people.
always have it. They always have a dog on it. It's Lagunitas' logo.
Yeah,
so.
I know, but this is the one that actually has the dog as the.
No, they all have the dog on it. Like every single Lagunitas bottle has a dog on it.
No, but this anyway, it's the hazy. It's their hazy. It's their Lagunitas hazy, whatever. Anyway, and I was looking at the aisle and I was like, oh yeah, there's Lagunitas, and then there's another dog. You know, dogs are a big part of craft beer, as you can see. Hey, Taco. Taco is the star of the show right now, just so everybody knows. So they have Lagunitas, and I didn't buy any because I didn't need beer. I just looked at the aisle.
No.
And I will tell you right here, right now, I have never had a Bud. I have never drank. No. And because of the AB InBev thing and whatever, and I just, from my point of view, don't take this the wrong way. When you're used to drinking German lagers, like they're right next to me, you kind of don't drink the American stuff. But I should try it at some point because it's just, you should try it.
Nah, just at least try Miller High Life.
We don't get Miller High Life. We do get Budweiser and everything. We do get Bud. And I had the can in my hand, and I was like, I grabbed it because I realized, oh, right, they own Goose Island, and I drink Bourbon County. And there was just Goose Island in the aisle, and I know Goose Island, and they own Goose Island. I had a can in my hand. This could be fun. And I just realized what the fuck happened. I grabbed the can because I know, and it's just priced a little bit higher than like the supermarket cheap lager shit. It's just priced a little bit higher. And you're like, oh, if it's a little bit more expensive, it's probably a little bit better, isn't it? And
yeah, but they're
the can. You're like, should I try this? And that's their marketing.
The marketing is technically the opposite. The marketing is like Goose Island IPA is $6. Well, Bud's $4.50, so Bud's probably just as good. It's only a little bit cheaper. That was their goal. That's their goal, is to make Bud look
like for the general public. For me, like as a craft.
No, not just general. Well, not just general. But you have to understand, dude.
No.
Me and you talk about beer on YouTube. We're like, we're fucking not the people that they market to.
Oh, that's true.
You know what I mean? Like we are not them. Like, you know what I mean? Like if we take the time out of our schedules to talk about beer on YouTube for free and not make really anything from it, we're the 1%ers. We're the people that they don't give a shit about because we're to buy regardless. They're hitting that market between like the 30% and 70% of people that just kind of float in the ether. You know what I mean? Like,
okay, but then let's make it slightly different. Let's make this the point where it's like you're from the States and I'm from Europe. I'm from the Netherlands. Also, their international marketing. Let's just make this completely global. I do drink craft, and I don't drink a lot of holy shit. He just finished a goddamn bottle already, and I'm still working on it. There you go. I'm not chugging that, by the way.
Dude, when you're 4 foot tall, it's hard.
Oh, go fuck yourself with your 4 foot tall. If from a European point of view, when I know as a craft beer drinker, when I know that Goose Island is AB InBev, and there's a lot of craft beer drinkers that I know that go like, I don't drink beers from supermarkets. I don't buy AB InBev. When they're in that supermarket, when they're in the Albert Heijn, because Dutch people watch this, when they're in the Albert Heijn and they see that can, they'll buy it. They're going to try it. And after a while, and that is why their marketing works. And while from a marketing point of view, it works amazingly well because it's insidious. People know that Bud is from AB InBev. And the Dutch people who do every now and then pick up that can of Midway at the Albert Heijn will at some point say, you know what? I'll try the Budweiser. And before you know it, because this is what I saw happening at the supermarket the other day, there's somebody walking out with the plastic crates, with the bottles in them.
Yes.
The 24 packs. Somebody was buying 2 24 bottle crates of Budweiser.
You know what Canadians call 24 packs?
No.
It's going to be the most, when I say it, you're going to be like, that's weird. And then you'll instantly be like,
I've had interactions with Canadians. I'll probably get it.
Twofer.
Yeah.
Yeah, a 2-4. 24 pack.
2-4. Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. Twofer.
Twofer.
Oh shit! Now I want to watch. Now I want to read. This is how my brain works. Now I want to read June again. You're probably not going to get that reference. I'm a sci-fi nut. There you go. This has been one of the weirdest, most awesome, most fun non-Bourbon County reviews I've ever done.
Yeah, good times, man. Let's talk about this. Let's do this. Let's wrap it up because we're at an hour now, and that's probably about 40 minutes too long. But
at the least,
like, first off, like the place that I ended up picking this one up at, it was $11 a piece. They had 17, 18, 19, 20. I might go back and just buy all four and do a 4-year vertical now, just to see the difference for my own sense. But it'll be interesting to go back and look at my review. I'm 99% sure I reviewed 2018. So go check that out for my actual original thoughts.
I know I did. So there
did you? Yeah. So go check out Thomas's too. But let's put it this way. I've actually, last couple of years, I've drank more Bourbon County Stout than I've reviewed. It's been something that like I would see on a shelf and I'd be like, you know what? I just want a really good stout. I know this is going to deliver. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to drink it. And I've been almost always not just impressed, but like surprised about how good it is. I think this is actually one of the least favorite ones I've had in quite some time. But I also want to preface that with it's probably still one of the better barrel-aged stouts that I've had over the past several months. It's not Rushmore status for me, but it's still, even in its state where it's not the best and it's underperforming, it's still really, really, really good. Like I said, and I kind of prefaced this in something previous, but it's probably the second most readily available really good bourbon barrel-aged stout in the States. Here we get Dragon's Milk from New Holland. I don't know if you guys get Dragon's Milk over there.
Oh yeah, we do. It's about I don't know the price, but it's about like €7 for the 11.7 ounce bottle. Well,
that's the thing over here. For a 4-pack of the 12-ounce bottles, it's like $14.
See, there you go.
So I can get a 4-pack of that for almost the price of one of these.
And that would be my point exactly, because from a European, like a Dutch point of view, to switch that around a little bit, this is just a fucking tasty. Is it the best? Like you just said, is this the best barrel-aged imperial stout I've ever had? No, it isn't. I'm the douchebag, by the way, that rated this again because of all the haters. I rated this a 5 on Untappd because I'm the douchebag. I just want to, fuck them up but honestly, it's not the best bourbon barrel-aged stout.
But no, here's the thing.
Here's the thing again. If I could get this for like 10 or 11 euros for 50 centiliters, I would buy this all day, every day, because this is just that tasty. But from the price point again, I know a lot of beers that are in the same price point that I like a little bit better. So I probably wouldn't buy it again because I have to pay for a 2018 vintage, probably like 30 euros by now. And that's not worth it. When I bought this fresh, it was 20 euros. By now, it would probably be 30. I'm not going to pay that for this. I like it. It's not worth the 30 euros. But if this was 10 euros, if I find this in, like you said, you paid $11 for it. If I were to find this for $11 on a shelf, I'd buy the shelf. I'd buy all of it. I'd take it home and I'd have many amazing weekends with some amazing bourbon barrel-aged stouts. But it's the price point again. Taco, hello. That's the thing. For me, I love it, but it's not worth the price I would have to currently pay for it. There you go.
Yeah, it's a good beer, regardless, and it's honestly readily. And the point I was trying to make when I was trying to interject again earlier, is that the 2020 version I think is one of the better bourbon barrel-aged stouts I've had. Period. As of late, is it one of you have to be able to delineate that. Like when people talk about bourbon barrel-aged beers nowadays, it's a lot of like, bourbon barrel-aged maple syrup and cupcakes and fucking this, that, and the other thing, crack and methamphetamine and like 19 other things.
Fucking money, literally money.
Yeah, monny. Like this is Core 4 plus barrel. If we want to talk about what we're talking about earlier, Core 4 plus barrel. So there's no, besides the barrel, there's nothing to it besides that. The 2020 version was one of the best ones I've had. This one, not so much, but the line itself is the most consistent and one of the better barrel-aged stouts. Period.
There you go. And that is as they say that. So how about we end this one, and then if you still have a 2020, we're both gonna grab a 2020 and we're
No,
gonna
I
do a
don't.
live stream.
No.
Of course we're not, dude. It literally just hit midnight for me, and I still have to finish this.
Yeah.
So there you go. But this was fun.
Sucks you drink so slowly. I'm sorry.
I am quite impressed, by the way, that how quickly you can. I'm like really
okay. Let's take this back a sec. Are you impressed that I finished the Bourbon County Stout, or are you impressed that I finished a 14-ounce beer in over an hour?
Under an hour.
Over an hour.
I don't know when did you finish it?
An hour. Semantics. An hour, dude. Yeah. I drank a 14-ounce beer in an hour.
There you
that's
go.
That's normal.
At this ABV, I'm impressed. I mean, I can go pretty fast. I had a 16% ABV beer this afternoon, and it took me about an hour and a half. And that was a 440. There you go.
It's also technically my third beer of the day. I had a 4% lager 5 hours ago. I drank half of this 3.3% lager, and then I drank the Bourbon County. So
2, 3, 4. Yeah, this is my fifth.
Yeah.
So but it's midnight for me. So there you go. Dude, I just love doing this because even though we disagreed at some points, and I always love disagreeing because that's amazing. This was a lot of fun.
We should find more beers we can do together then.
Because that's the thing. I was just about to say, I can't believe that this is the first review/talk we did, except for the live streams, of course, that we're going to upload in all the time that we've been hanging out. Yeah. It's weird. So we'll do it again. Let's do it with some Midway Session IPA. There we go.
Well, if I can get it, I would. But I think we're probably leaning into some Belgian beers. Belgium. How do you say it?
It's a Belgian beer from a Belgian brewery.
Yeah, that one of those. That's probably the most easily consistent ones that we can get.
Yeah, except don't go for the Westie because don't fuck around. You can actually get Westie in stores and I can't. So.
No, I can't. No, it's not available in stores
anymore?
here. No, it was only available one time 10 years ago.
Oh,
no. You can't get Westie here. No.
Oh,
no. I talked about how I used to be able to get it from a bar 20 years ago.
Oh, maybe I'm confusing that.
Yeah, okay. No. There was a bar when I started to learn about beer 20 years ago. I'm dating myself. 24 years ago. There was 22 years ago. There was a bar that used to have them, and I can get them out. But that was 22 years ago. It was a super boutique bar. It's never been like available in the States on the reg. One time in around 2001. They did a fire and the thing and they did a United States release of Westfalen, and it was a 4-pack in a glass, and it was like $90 or something like that.
Do you know why they did that? Do you know why they did that?
No.
I think that happened around then. They had a fire at the monastery, at the brewery and everything, and they needed to make money to rebuild shit. So they just realized that because there's a huge ask for this stuff overseas, they just pushed a lot of it in those. Those little gift thingies you just mentioned. So just pushed a lot of that to make money. They needed to make money to rebuild the monastery and the brewery and everything.
So everybody out there that's watching this, that's like, fuck AB and Beb, Westfalen literally did exactly what you hate. They said, exactly. we need money. Bullshit. Let's just mass market our product for profit.
Christianity fucked you over. Christianity fucked you over.
Yeah, cry into your pillow. Cry yourself to sleep in your pillow over that.
I was just about to say Christianity fucked you over for money, but they've been doing that for like 20 centuries. So
yeah, for not money, just for fun.
Just for the shits and giggles of it. And on that high note, let's fucking end this. And that was a lot of fun. Dude, thank you. You're going to find this for those who want to really pump the numbers for the other channel. You can find this on my channel. You can also find it on the Matt's channel. So if you want to pump up the views and the subscribers, go,
Yeah. And for everybody who doesn't know, this guy over here is he's Dutch. Are you right? You're Dutch? You're one of those Dutch people?
Over het algemeen praat ik Nederlands. Daar kan ik ook weinig aan doen. Maar
he sounds like he's just one of our generic English folk. But it's Thomas Opent.
Unless
Yeah,
Sorry?
Opent. Go check him out
Yeah.
on the YouTubes. You should know him already, but
Unless, of course, I
yeah.
hang
How
out
many
with the British
subscribers
guys
do you
and
have right
then
now?
540.
Okay, see how great he speaks better English than I do. If he doesn't have 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, I'm gonna stop my channel. I'm gonna cancel my channel and
That's
take it
on
off.
you. That's on you right now. That's on you.
Yeah, it's on everybody. If Thomas Opent doesn't have 1,000 subs by the end of 2021, Massive Beers will be off the air. And honestly, that might be bad for you because people might not sub to you because they want me to go away. So I don't know.
That could be a thing because I know you got a few haters out there.
Yeah.
Know,
I know.
you
Few.
got your Darwin lovers out there. So did I just
93 garbage. So there we go. Go check them out.
I'm good. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. You go have a great evening. I'm gonna finish this and I'm gonna go to bed. And say hi to Liesl. Say hi to Micah for me. And
Friends.
check you out later, dude.
Friends.
Bye-bye. Cheers.